As we read today in Ruth chapter 2, it's important to remember where we are coming from. As Maddie shared with us yesterday, Ruth and Naomi are kind of the main characters of this book, and both women have experienced loss of a husband. Naomi actually has lost her husband and both of her sons, and now it is her and her daughter-in-law venturing back or journeying back to Naomi's home country, back to Bethlehem. So you have an Israelite and a Moabite showing up. But in this confusing and terrible situation, we already begin to see God working his plans out. He mentions 2:1 that there is a man there that is worthy of the family, and his name is Boaz. Verse 3, it says, Ruth goes out to work that day, and she just so happens to work in the field of Boaz. We see through Boaz just the way that a follower of God and his people should act. He provides safety for this foreigner. He says, stay with my women, work with them, don't venture off, and you will be safe. He provides sustenance for her. He says, when you're thirsty, come and drink. He satisfies her hunger, and he says, hey, during lunchtime, come and eat with us and eat your fill, dip your morsel in my cup. He's saying, eat, be full, and then he supplies her. See, in that day, the foreigner was allowed rights of working in the fields. And so the foreigner could go out and could pick up anything that was left over. And we are in the wheat and barley harvest, so that is April and May that is taking place. And so for these 60 or so days, Ruth would be able to pick over whatever was left over. But then Boaz says something more. He says, hey, leave extra for her. And he even tells her, hey, you can get more, because he wants to care for her and because of how she has cared for Naomi. Even in this terrible situation, you're beginning to see that God is working through his people for the good of others. And I think that's where Asher's challenge for us today really comes in. He says, will you serve somebody beyond what would be expected? Will you serve them beyond what is the norm, but will you go out of your way to care for someone, to serve someone? Boaz is an example of this, doing what way beyond what would have been expected of him, out of the goodness and kindness and compassionate heart that he has. So, will you follow his example? And will you, in this tough situation, see the hope that God is providing? We'll see you tomorrow in Ruth 3.